Hello, today I am going to be going over the initial ILP, Individualized Learning Plan. The purpose of the ILP. So the Individualized Learning Plan must address the California Standards for the Teaching Profession, the CSTPs, and it is the roadmap for candidates' induction work during their time in the program. This document must be collaboratively developed at the beginning of induction with input from the mentor and administrator. The ILP must include candidate professional growth goals, a description of how the candidate will work to meet those goals, defined and measurable outcomes, and planned opportunities to reflect. So you will see when we examine this document, everything that it states in this purpose statement is reflected in the ILP template. This explanation of the ILP comes directly from the induction standards from the state. All right, so we're going to take a look at the ILP in detail, and I'm going to go through each section. Remember, we're only talking about the initial ILP. So this is the first and only time you're going to set your goals for the year. Now, of course, during the remainder of the year, you will have opportunities to come back and change those goals based on student need, teacher need, or if something's just not working. There is space to reflect 2 more times throughout the year. So I'm going to open this document and go through each section like I just said. So up at the top here, you'll say participating teacher, school, grade level, and if you're a year 1 or year 2 candidate, you can fill that out. This first greenish box is where you're going to create your first ILP goal. And you can see the date is August through December. You're going to date it. The date doesn't really matter. It's sometime when you first begin to work on this document. So normally it's either August or September. This is where you're going to write your goal. You're going to write the corresponding CSTP elements that align to this goal. And you will know that because you have already self-assessed on the CSTP. And then with that self-assessment of the CSTP, you also placed yourself at the certain levels in the continuum. So you're going to write your placement with whatever CSTP element you wrote here. This is probably the most challenging part, the defined and measurable outcomes. You're going to specifically define your goal using anticipated outcomes and explained how it will be measured. There is a link here to SMART goals that may help you be specific. So you're taking the big idea of the goal and then you're funneling it down to be specific on what do you want to see happen in your class? What are you wondering? What is an issue? What scores do you want to improve? And then this last section is a description of proposed actions. So Google changed the form, but if you check it, it'll cross it out. Another option is you can just go up here and you can highlight the things you're going to do. Now this is what new learning do you think you're going to do to work on this goal, whatever it is. So you're definitely going to do an inquiry cycle on this goal. There probably are PD opportunities that will assist you, or curriculum cafe videos, there's blog posts, you may attend a conference, you may have a staff meeting that's going to support you. So you're just going to write, what do you think you're going to do, the proposed actions. All right, so that's goal number 1. This is for mid-year reflection, so we're going to skip that. We're going to skip final reflection, and then we're going to go down to goal number 2. Now on yours, there was a typo, and it also said August through December. We've changed that, but it's not going to reflect on your individual assignment. So it should say January through March. So if yours does not say January through March, please go ahead and fix that. You're going to go through the same process that I just explained above, creating a second goal. Now, we create 2 goals. Some of you will have 3. We create 2 goals. One goal you're going to do an inquiry cycle on in the fall. So you can see that's fall. You're done typically by Thanksgiving break. The second goal you're going to work on is going to be started in January. So although it's not started until late, the state does want us to have a year-long plan. So that's why you're creating a second goal. Keep in mind that if this goal needs to change, and in December, when we come back and do our mid-year modifications or changes, if you read your second goal and you think like that's not accurate anymore, I need to change it, you can change it. There's no rules against that. It needs to fit the needs of your class and you as a professional. So you're going to go through each of this section and do the same thing that you did above. Okay, so now the big question, how do I come up with my goals? How do I think of my goals? What do I write? So you are going to create your goals after your first observation from your mentor and after you have self-assessed on the CSTP continuum. Why? Well, you're going to get a really good idea of the CSTP elements that you're rating yourself in as either emerging or exploring. So one of the first two columns. And those may be things that stick out to you as areas of need. So some of those elements will stick out, and that's most likely what you're going to need to work on. But probably the most significant help you'll receive to how do you need to work on your goals or what should you work on is the feedback you're going to receive from your mentor. So after your mentor observes, they're going to be typing some comments either through our online platform GoReact or on a document, and they're going to be asking you some reflective questions, and they're going to be giving you some data, some feedback from their observation. So when your mentor is sharing feedback and asking questions about best instructional practices or classroom environment, that is the perfect time to have an honest, open conversation to discuss areas of need that'll turn into your ILP goals. If you want some guidance in creating these goals, which all of us do because this is the most challenging part of induction, I think, let's take a look at a tool that will help you. So this is an ILP goal writing guide. This guide is going to help you in thinking about like, I'm still stuck on writing my goal. So this first one, if there's a change in practice that you have in mind in your class, you can start with this sentence frame. So there's some questions to think about. What is the behavior that needs to change, teacher or student? What's the teaching practice that you want to address? What evidence will you use to measure your successful implementation of that practice? Typically, as a new teacher, there's something around classroom management engagement. So that's CSTP 1 or 2. Is there a behavior that's interrupting learning? Are students disrupting your class, getting up when not getting up during the middle of the lesson? So this is if you would like to think about a change in practice in mind. If you're looking at student data, maybe you want to start with the student outcome in mind. So what is it the outcome you want for all students? For example, my 4th grade students need support in knowing basic addition and subtraction. So maybe you're going to work on creating strategies, using resources, a new routine that will help with that learning. So what is the outcome? And then lastly, if you want to think about the CSTP that you really want to focus on. So you can start here and which CSTP do you want to grow and read some of those questions. And then down below, there's a sentence frame that you can use for this one. So you can see that in each of these different templates, these guides, there's a sentence frame that'll help you think about it. And this is a great way to first use this on your own, but then with your mentor, if you're thinking about it, you guys can bounce ideas off of each other using this goal writing guide. All right, so here are many more resources to help you create your goal. The first resource is a list of example ILP goals. And this is helpful because it lists the defined and measurable outcomes, which if you remember, I said is the most challenging. So I'm going to look at this real quick. On the left, you have the goal, and on the right, you have defined and anticipated measurable outcomes. And there is a long list of different examples that I've pulled from over the years and added on here to help you. So there's things with actual data. So we're talking about the student outcome in mind. And then there's behavior goals on here, classroom management. So when you're writing your goal, if you're having a hard time with the defined and measurable outcomes, come back to this resource and see if yours has the same components as the example one. Next, you have 2 sample ILPs, so sample 1 and sample 2. So if you click on sample 1, This is going to be filled in as if you would fill in your own goal. So you can see this first one, I would like to implement classroom management strategies in my second grade class to increase the time students spend on tasks during language arts. That's pretty broad. So defined and measurable, here's the specifics of it. So during the next 8 weeks, I plan to incorporate Kagan structures into activities to provide students with more opportunities for engagement during lessons, which will increase time on tasks. So we're going big idea here to more specific here. So it's funneling down to be specific. And then how are they going to measure that and what are the anticipated outcomes? Right here, you can see this, the example that doesn't have check boxes because then it will cross it out. However, there are an explanation of the description and proposed actions. And like I said before, these are the CSTP elements that align with this goal and the ratings that they have here from their self-assessment of the CSTPs. So we have 2 sample ILPs. We have a special ed sample ILP. This is the ILP goal writing guide that I went over. And then here is a Padlet that captured some takeaways from one of our induction sessions about the importance of the sample ILP and the example ones. So you can refer back to here and look at like what is important about writing your ILP goal. All right. So a couple things to keep in mind. Couple hints, because now it is time to craft your ILP goals and complete this actual document that's going to set you up for the rest of the year. So your goal cannot be based on a feeling or gut. Your goal cannot be something along the lines of, I want my students to enjoy math, or does giving rewards for completing homework make a difference? That's not a strong ILP based on data. Your goal must be tied to data. So somewhere along there, you have to tie it to student data, whether that be you record yourself for a lesson and then go back and watch the video and count how many times students are disrupting, or you're tying it to math data, language arts data, iReady data, some type of data, it has to be tied to that. These goals are going to turn into your inquiry cycles. So this is why you really have the biggest say in what your goals are. And then your mentor is there to support and make sure that those goals align to student learning, as well as your administrator will also have a say in what you work on. But make sure that these goals are solid, because you're going to be doing 6 to 8 weeks of learning, of implementing, of reflecting, of making changes based on this goal. So remember, one goal is in the fall, going to turn into an inquiry cycle, one goal is in the spring, and that second goal is going to turn into an inquiry cycle. Before you turn in your ILP, compare your goals to the sample goals. If you get an ILP returned to you with a 0 on classroom, then there's something that needs to be addressed. And if it's super specific, I'm going to refer you back to the samples and example goals to see how yours compare. So keep that in mind. Make sure your mentor okays your goal. They're on board, it's solid, it's measurable, it's defined before you submit it on Classroom. And then, like I was just saying, if you receive a 0, comments were left addressing the issue, I always make sure to leave comments. Do not resubmit until you have really endured the accuracy of what that ILP needs to be and your mentor has supported you with that. In the handbook, which I will post along with this video, it's also found on our Google Classroom page, there are many resources to help create this ILP. So all of the resources I just went over are going to be attached to this video and you can find in the handbook. And that is all I have for creating and writing your initial ILP goals. Thank you.